Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Thursday, November 6, 2025, and I wish you a very, very, very happy Marooned Without a Compass day. On today's show, we get ready for Ohio State taking on Purdue Fort Wayne. The Buckeyes with a game coming up here on Friday against another mid-low major, the Mastodons from Purdue Fort Wayne, who the Buckeyes will take on. So today, we will cover that game. We're going to break it down. We'll preview it in all the ways that you're used to. We'll go through the background on Purdue Fort Wayne. We'll talk about their offense. We'll talk about their defense. I will give my prediction. I will let you know where the BIP sees this game, although we don't have any numbers out, at least at the time of my recording, which is Wednesday evening. So I'll let you know where to look. And look, I'm kicking myself. I am. There was some kind of entity over me who said, surely the hottest play according to the BIP on a slate with like 100 games on Monday, surely it couldn't be Ohio State. It couldn't be taking Ohio State spread when it opened. We had like a 7 or 8 point edge there. Of course it couldn't be taking Ohio State's team total over, a number that rose all the way, I believe, over 100 by the time this game tipped off. It started at like 93.5, 94.5, something like that. The BIP was screaming to take the over, and I was afraid because I said, certainly Ohio State's game can't be the biggest play on the BIP on this entire board on Monday, right? Turns out we should have taken it. We should have taken it. And we will let you know where the BIP has Ohio State in this game against Purdue Fort Wayne. So stick around for that on the Substack. Just so you know, the past 2 days and here today on Thursday, by the time you're listening, or Friday, there will be more articles. Every single day I find a play from the BIP that will be posted there. You've seen it. I've talked about it plenty before. Last year, how successful our betting intelligence platform was here on the Views from the Shop podcast. It's completely free. If you're not into betting, you can completely ignore it. Even if you aren't into betting, it's interesting to see kind of where we expect these games to go. But even if you're into betting or not, just be advised, there are some plays there on the Substack. That's Views from the Shop podcast.substack.com. Highly recommend you get there. There's a lot of good stuff. I can tell you that all the time. Until you get there and actually see it, I'm not sure you really know what you're missing out on. So it's Views from the Shop podcast.substack.com. What else do we have? Follow on Twitter. Of course, follow on Instagram. We reached a nice little milestone on Twitter at 1.2 thousand followers. That's super cool. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube as well. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. I'm talking to you. You may think your like doesn't matter. It does. Please like on YouTube and give a 5-star review. I'm looking for someone. I'm looking for just one person to give a 5-star review. Those 5-star reviews, the reviews in general have kind of tapered off. We've gotten a bunch of new listeners, a bunch of new subscribers. Just got to the end of the month, got some reports in from various places that I look for reporting on, and the numbers are great. A lot of new subscribers. Would love a couple of 5-star reviews. I'll just ask for one. I'll beg for one. I'll just beg for one, okay? I'll flat out do it. Won't get on my hands and knees, but just visualize it, I guess, if that's what it takes. All right. So even before we get into this Ohio State and Purdue Fort Wayne game coming up here on Friday evening, I do want to talk a little bit more about Ohio State's win over IU Indy. First of all, I apologize for the poor audio on that episode. Here's what's happening, okay? I'm going to give you a peek behind the curtain. I don't know if you can see because I got my notes covering some stuff up. So behind me, there's a literal curtain. I won't give you a peek back there, but just so you know, my name is Tim, okay? In the house that my lovely wife and I moved into, we bought our first home in July. In this house where I do the show and my office where I do my work, it's up in the attic, okay? You've got your main floor and then you've got your basement. In the basement is where our Wi-Fi router lives. Going all the way upstairs. The signal at times not great. That said, whenever we go live, man, it's bad. The audio sucks. I just realized it on this last show. I apologize. It's very JV of me, and I need to do better. So if we go live, I might have to go downstairs to the basement, and you can get a tour of that, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Regardless, apologies for the audio there. We're 5 minutes into the show. We got to talk Ohio State hoops, so that's what I'm going to do. I want to talk about Ohio State taking on IU Indy. I just got the weirdest notification on my phone. Just the weirdest. And I wish I could actually watch what I just got a notification for. I can't. Weird notification. Okay. So Ohio State, after the win against IU Indy, it drops 4 spots in Bart Torvik, drops 8 spots in Ken Palm, all the way down to 35. Where the analytics expected this game to go is not where the game went. Ohio State gave up a bunch of points, and I want to talk about it because fans were still very upset about Ohio State's defense after that game. Going into, what was it? It would have been Tuesday. I posted a video, like 20 seconds of some highlights from Ohio State offensively in that game. And the caption was, at least on Twitter, I just wrote 118 points scored in a season opener as many times as Twitter would allow me to. Now, I am the type who does pay for like the added benefits of some upgraded Twitter platform just because for the podcast it helps. But I did like the normal characters, and that's all I said. 118 points scored in a season opener. That's a big deal. No matter how you slice it, no matter how upset you are about the defense, that's a big deal. Someone commented back and said something about scoring 102 points or allowing 102 points, which I completely understand where that fan and many fans are coming from. But I want to talk about it. I want to give closing thoughts on that game because I've thought about this a little more. And I think the thoughts that I have are probably the similar thoughts that maybe you have, or at least those within the program may have. If you sit down and you sit Jake Diebler down in a room and you give him some warm tea and a nice pillow to squeeze, and you hook him up to a lie detector and say, hey, man, don't worry. All right, don't worry. What's your name? He says, my name is Jake. Okay, cool. What do you do? I'm a basketball coach. All right, that's true. And then how do you feel about how this game went defensively for you on Monday night? And the lie detector's on. What is he going to say? I think he's probably going to say something similar to this. Now, this isn't me saying that I spoke to Coach Diebler about this. I didn't, but this is my guess, and this is what I would say as well. Number one, Ohio State is not going to play another team like IU Indy for the rest of the season. It's just simply not going to happen. All of the combination of factors in that game in terms of pace, in terms of difficulty to guard IU Indy 1-5, in terms of just weird shots that they made, and in terms of the full court press, like they are not going to play a game with that level of chaos for the rest of the season. There may be some uglier games they play. There may be some games with a bunch of points scored, but combining all these different factors in one game, it's not going to happen again. This game had the highest pace of the season so far at 83.9. That's bonkers high. Bonkers. No one scored more points than Ohio State so far this season than they did, as of at least like 7 p.m. exactly on Wednesday night when I wrote that note down. They scored 50 paint points. They shot more free throws than anyone in the country so far in a game. They dished out 19 assists. All the offensive numbers, I don't think anyone really cares about. What people care about is the defense. And the fact is this, the defense was bad. If you look at Ohio State's defensive rating at this point, it's just through one game, but it's really bad. Okay. I'll get this number to you courtesy of College Basketball Analytics. Their defensive rating is 121.6. That somehow is 25th percentile in college basketball. I'm surprised it's not worse than that. I wrote this in the shot sheet on the Substack on Tuesday morning that Ohio State's defensive rating as of right now, it would be even worse than the worst Power 5 program last year had, which was Miami. And they had 2 different coaches last season and now a new one this year. And they won 7 games. So all that said, like, I'm not here to say the defense wasn't a problem in one game. They gave up a lot of points. And I was hoping that the underlying analytics and metrics would give us a little bit of solace and say, hey, this game wasn't that bad. Defensively, they weren't that bad, but it was bad. The defensive rating was bad. The adjusted defensive rating, if you want to look at that, you can take that from Ken Palm. They're 98th percentile right now. So that number, not 98th percentile. They're 98th in the nation right now. So that number is certainly not as bad. The effective field goal percentage they gave up, the turnover rate that they forced defensively, those numbers not great. The 2-point percentage defensively, really not good whatsoever. But all that said, 102 points is really bad. You're not going to face a team like this again this year, where the pace is breakneck. Like, that is the fastest pace Ohio State is going to play all season because, number one, it allowed Ohio State to play fast, but IU Indy also wanted to play fast. So when you have two teams like that, I'm sure there's a really smart analogy that you can give there. I guess it would be essentially like you've got like two Lambos on I-70, like crossing through downtown Columbus, which 70 doesn't cross through down, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we're on 70. We're in the center of Columbus. We got two Lambos driving like at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday night, and everyone else is driving a Toyota Prius. Like, this is an outlier in terms of pace. It's also an outlier in terms of the full court press for 40 minutes that I talked about pregame, and now I continue to talk about. That was something that I don't know how many teams do that in college basketball. There's more than just one, obviously, in IU Indy, but that means more possessions for you because you saw it. You saw Christoph Tilly a bunch of times, especially in the second half. Ohio State would break the press, and then from there, they're breaking it. They've got numbers. They're scoring so quickly. IU Indy's getting the ball so quickly, and their pace is so high. They want to get the ball down the floor. They want to get a bunch of shots up. And by nature, they're going to hit shots. Now, do they lose guys at time? Yeah. Were there some individual performers that weren't great defensively in this game? Of course. But overall, you look at all of the different pressure points in this game, how difficult this team is to guard 1 to 5 as well. And I get it. It's a bunch of D2 players. It doesn't change the fact that they've got a very versatile roster and they've got playmakers 1 through 5. They got guys who made really, really tough shots in this game. And all that said, I don't think we're going to see another game like this season. And that's why I'm willing to toss out the 102 points that they allowed. Now, that said, Ohio State's going to have an opportunity here against Purdue Fort Wayne. Beautiful segue by me, by the way. Someone pat me on the back for that. They're going to have the opportunity in this game to show that this defense isn't a problem. Just because in game one, I'm not really all that worried about it defensively. I am concerned, but this doesn't keep me up at night in terms of Ohio State basketball. They have their opportunities here to kind of hush those who are very, very, very concerned about Ohio State's defense. Will they do it in this one? We will find out. But all that said, I think that this game against IU Indy, I'm throwing it out. It is an outlier. We move on. Okay. Moving on to Purdue Fort Wayne. The Mastodons. What is a Mastodon? I should know, but I don't. They go 19-13 last year in the Horizon. 30th, I believe that number is wrong. I believe they were like 38th or 39th in points per game last season. Their head coach, John Kaufman, he's been there for 12 seasons now, by the way. They lost to UCF last year. They scored 89 points to Penn State. As I said in the preseason show, talking about Purdue Fort Wayne in this game against Penn State, I said it's the saddest fan base in sports. They just beat Fairfield by 8. They got taken to the wire by Fairfield. I don't know if that's the county in Ohio. I don't know if it's the suburb of Cincinnati. Either way, you shouldn't be walking the plank against Fairfield, and yet Penn State did. So that said, prayers up to our friends or foes in State College. Not good. They also took a really solid beating from Michigan last season. So in games where they had to play real Power 5 opponents, it wasn't really great. In general, this has been a team that's produced pretty well offensively. Defensively, they've been up and down. We'll talk about that later on the show. They've never made an NCAA tournament, but they have won 21, 17, 23, and 19 games in their last 4 seasons. Against Ohio State, well, the Buckeyes have won 2 of 2 matchups. Last game was in 2018 when Ohio State won 107-61. And so far this year, Purdue Fort Wayne is 0-1, losing to Grand Canyon 90-71. So let's talk about the Mastodons. Mastodon or Mastador? Mastodon. That's what they are. Should I Google what a Mastodon is right now? No, I won't. You know the reason why is because I'm not going to violate my second monitor doing that when I'm currently watching the one banger bet that we placed on Wednesday. And we look okay right now, but I am nervous. I don't know what the live number is. It's probably still better than where we bet it before the game. but I am nervous. But we're crossing our fingers because if we wake up tomorrow and this hits, we're starting the year 2-3. But I'm not the type to speak it into existence. I don't believe in that. Okay. Right now, it's not cashing. We're going to consider it not cash. All right. Purdue Fort Wayne offense against Ohio State defense. Do any of these numbers matter, by the way, that I'm telling you that happened last year for Purdue Fort Wayne? No, not really. Their top 3 scorers are gone. 6 of their 8 top scorers are gone. Bunch of production gone. Minutes are gone. But here's why it does matter, and here's why I give you these numbers early on in the season. I think you get the historical context of play style. That's what I care about, especially given the consistency here at head coach for Purdue Fort Wayne. That said, I look at these numbers like with a grain of salt, but also knowing this is kind of where they've been over the past few years, and especially last year. Maybe systematically they'll be a little similar to this year, and then I'll obviously give you some numbers of how they fared against Grand Canyon. So last year, they scored 79.4 points per game. That was 38th in the nation. That's the number I've got. It's pretty solid offensively, obviously, in 1 year, especially at a mid-major. But over the past couple years, they've also been pretty strong offensively, has Purdue Fort Wayne. Now, they shot the ball really well last year, actually. Even while taking a bunch of threes, you would expect if your three-point attempt rate is going to be high, maybe your field goal percentage is going to be lower, but that wasn't the case for them. 54.7% effective field goal percentage, 58.2% true shooting percentage, and 45.6% three-point attempt rate. That was 87th percentile in college basketball last year. So good underlying shooting numbers while shooting a bunch of threes. They're also 92nd percentile in three-point percentage overall at 37% last year. So they shot the three ball well. They shoot a lot of three balls. And overall, they were super efficient shooting the ball last season. Now, here's the problem. Here's the rub. Against Grand Canyon, it was really bad, okay? And Grand Canyon's not a bad program. By the way, they have, I can't remember his name, the guy from Indiana State, I believe, and then went to like a more real school last year. And now he's at Grand Canyon this year, apparently with more eligibility. That guy, okay? He's at Grand Canyon. Not that you care about. You're not here to hear anything on Grand Canyon, okay? That said, in this game against Grand Canyon, offensive rating for Purdue Fort Wayne, below 100. That's a problem. Effective field goal percentage, below 50%. Not good. They never really got to the free throw line. They didn't technically get to the free throw line. They struggled to draw fouls in this game. Below 30% from the three-point line. That's really not going to do it against a team like Grand Canyon. And they turned the ball over a fair amount as well. They had 3 players score in double digits. Okay, I hear you. The next highest score had 6 points. We're basically talking Ohio State from last year, but even worse than that. Like, we're talking Bruce Thornton, Micah Parrish, Devin Royal, John Malou Jr. If those guys aren't scoring, no one's scoring. That was kind of the case, at least in game 1 against Grand Canyon. So it's such a small sample size, it doesn't even matter, but it's a note worth saying at this point. 3 double-digit scores. Next best guy had 6 points. Not good. They also had 4 total offensive rebounds in this game against Grand Canyon. That's really bad. Ohio State, by the way, I haven't mentioned this, I don't think. Your top 2 rebounders in game 1 against IU Indy were Christoph Tilley and Brandon Dole. Your center and power forward. Your starting center and power forward. You look back at last year for Ohio State and the rebounding issues they had and the lack of production they had. Oh my gosh, what's going on with Marquette and Southern? Are we about to go 1 for 3 to start the year? It sure looks that way. They're going on a serious run right now. And my Timbers are shivered. Regardless, Christoph Tilley, Brandon Knoll rebounding for Ohio State. That's what you like to see compared to what you saw last year. Just a quick note there. Key players for Purdue Fort Wayne. The 2 players I mentioned in preseason episodes where I talked about this game were the 2 leading scorers against Grand Canyon. DeAndre Craig Jr., he's a transfer from Denver. He averaged 14 points per game last year, 4 rebounds per game there at Denver, and he scored in double figures in all of his final 11 games there. Now, this year with Purdue Fort Wayne in 1 game, he scores 18 points. That leads the team, mostly from inside the arc, but a good performance there from him. Corey Hadnot II, another player I'll mention. Horizon League all-freshman team, 5-time Conference Player of the Week last year. Now he returns to Purdue Fort Wayne. After averaging 9 points per game, he had a season high 23 points. He also scored 20 points against Penn State last year. Big time volume shooter is the type of player you're getting. And on Monday, he scored 16 points against Grand Canyon. He tied Craig for the most field goals made. 2 of 5 from deep. That's pretty solid, I guess. And 6 of 6. 6 assists as well. That led the team. So you can see his ability to share the rock, to hit shots from deep, to hit shots inside the 3-point line as well. And he's got a bunch of experience. So that's a player to keep an eye on as well. The last player I'll mention is Mikhail Stevenson, 15 points, 3 assists in the loss against Grand Canyon. They had 4 turnovers as well. Really not efficient shooting it, but no one was efficient shooting the ball for Purdue Fort Wayne against Grand Canyon. So that's the offense for them. We'll talk about this matchup for Ohio State's defense here a little bit later when we get into predictions and stuff like that. But overall, this could be where if you cut the head off the snake or the 3-headed snake, for example, you just have bodies flopping around on the floor on Friday night. And hopefully that's not in the literal sense, but if it were, that would still be bad. So we're out on that. So Purdue Fort Wayne defense against Ohio State's offense. Defense has been up and down over the years. They've had some nice years, some not so nice years. 109.6 defensive rating last year, allowed 76.3 points per game, 46.7% from the field were offenses against them, and a 32.6% three-point percentage. That's pretty solid. Again, they allowed 90 points against Grand Canyon. They were overwhelmed on both sides of the ball. By the way, offensively, defensively, Purdue Fort Wayne just got beat down by Grand Canyon. They had a minus 25.7 net rating. They allowed shots to go in at a 56% rate from the field and 46% from the 3-point line. We'll talk about that, and we'll just talk about it right now, okay? 45.8% from the 3-point line. So if you go back and you get the chance to see anything from this game, if you want to get prepped on Purdue Fort Wayne, it's impossible. But if you do uncover anything, here's what I saw. And as I say all the time, I'm not the X's and O's guys. I'm not the coach. I'm not here who's the ultimate ball knower or anything like that. But what I did see is it seemed like they were almost deliberately sagging off on shooters against Grand Canyon, really slow closeouts. I don't know if it's low effort. I don't know if you just don't really give a crap. I don't know if it's, hey, like, let's give up the 3-point shot against Grand Canyon. I don't know what the game plan was, but it looked really, really bad. That led to Grand Canyon making 11 3-pointers. That's good enough to win a lot of games in college basketball. 46%, like I said, from the 3-point line. And Grand Canyon, they weren't weak from anywhere from the 3-point line. In the corners, top of the wing, on the wings, top of the key or on the wings, it didn't matter. They made shots consistently from everywhere. So that said, you look at Ohio State side, Bruce Thornton, John Molly Jr., Jevin Royal, Christoph Tilley, Brandon Knoll, Tayson Chapman, Amari Bynum. Last year, I could mention like 2 names, maybe 3 if you want to throw in Micah Parrish for guys you could trust to consistently be a threat from the 3-point line. This year, I just rattled off, 7? And then you could probably throw in maybe Gabe Cupps. Maybe you can throw in Matthew Grujicic. I don't know. Maybe you can throw in a couple other, like you could get to 10 names potentially. If you're talking consistent 3-point threats, you're probably at the names that I mentioned there, but it's a lot more names than last year, right? Like there's no Sean Stewart on the team this year. Negavon is back, but you've got a bunch of other 3-point shooters, like I just said. You got Chapman back, who's healthy now. I mean, you got guys who can shoot the ball. There's no Quez Glover out there for Ohio State this year. So that said, I think those guys are going to be able to get their 3-pointers up and made in this one. Looking at John Mobley Jr., he had 16 points against IU Indy. Not bad whatsoever. He only made 2 3-pointers out of 8 attempts. This is a guy who feels like at times, if you can get him going early, if you can get him a 3-pointer made, which he had against IU Indy, and then another one, and you get to 2 of 4, and then 3 of 6, and then 4 of 9 or something like that, you're really happy with that production, especially with that volume. We'll see if they can get John Mobley Jr. going in this one, but I think the 3-point shot is going to be there for Ohio State in this game. Other things I saw when looking at Purdue Fort Wayne against Grand Canyon. Another thing, guys will just be left open in general off the ball. You look at the open side of the floor or the weak side of the floor, depending on how you look at it. I mean, You look at Hadnot, what's his name? Corey Hadnot the second. You look at Hadnot, he's number 10. Keep an eye on him. He's gonna get lost in this game. At least in Grand Canyon, he was lost. You've got backside cutters, they can eat as well. Defenders will just straight up turn their back to whoever they're guarding. And those of you who have played basketball before, if you have elementary knowledge of basketball, if the man guarding you turns his back to you, you are cutting behind him. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. You're getting out of there. You're flashing, hopefully getting the ball, getting a shot up, or skipping, rotating the ball to find an open man off the rotation from the defensive help. That's going to be there for Ohio State in this one, even off the pick and roll. If they can guard the two-man game, that's fine. There's a backside floater. He can get open, and he can make a layup. All that said, I think this says Brandon Knoll written all over this game, okay? Brandon Knoll, he's seen this team before, obviously playing on the horizon. Has he seen a bunch of these players before? No, not necessarily. But the familiarity, I think playing game number 2 at Ohio State, playing another team that he's more than familiar with, just like IU Indy, I think this is a game where he can score. Now, I said in the first game against IU Indy, going into that game, it felt like a game where Christoph Tilley and Brandon Knoll could really eat up because as you break that press, you're going to have a numbers advantage, and those are going to be the two guys back there waiting to get open and to hit shots. It's how Colin White found Amari Bynum for that beautiful alley-oop that no one talks about, no one really posts. I posted on Wednesday. Like, that was a beautiful play. Great job by Colin White with the vision. Beautiful touch on the pass. Amari Bynum flushes it home. It was a great play. That's where I expected Tilley and Knoll to score. Now, Tilley scored. Tilley ran the floor with ease, and he scored. He led the team in scoring with 28 points against IU Indy. Brandon Knoll, I think he can be the guy, especially if they're using, although Knoll is good in the screen game, if Christoph Tilley is the primary guy there in the pick and roll, I think Knoll can be found on the weak side block to pick up some shots in this game. So that's something that I would look for as well. Defensively, player-wise, DeAndre Craig, he had 3 steals against Grand Canyon. EJ Mosley had 2. They forced 15 turnovers overall. That's pretty good. This is a pretty undersized team as well. They've got 2 6'8" starters. Outside of that, you're 6'3", you're 6'2", and you're 6 foot. So Ohio State should be able to rebound defensively and offensively, create some extra possessions, some extra shots, and size overall shouldn't be an issue for them. So keys to the game in this one for Ohio State. Number 1, you got to make them pay. When you have the ability to make them pay, you've got to make them pay. I think Ohio State did a really solid job of this against IU. In this game, there's going to be opportunities, okay? The three-point shot, it's going to be there if you continue to sag, if you continue to close out with no urgency whatsoever. John Mobley Jr., especially with the range he has, he can make 5 threes in this game or more. You look at the backside, you look at the high-low, I think that's going to be there as well, especially if you get the pick and roll working. Overall, this feels like a defense with times. Those help defenders, they're ball watching. They're not focused on playing defensively. It sounds super easy. It sounds super oversimplified. It probably is, but that's what I saw a lot when they took on Grand Canyon. So if that's going to be the case against Grand Canyon, I think it can still be the case for Ohio State. So when you've got open guys, when you've got open shots, when you've got guys closing out and they're just not apparently giving full effort or just not closing out hard against 3-point shots, maybe because they're afraid of getting beat on the drive, you got to make them pay. That's John Mobley Jr. with the range. That's Bruce Thornton hopefully being aggressive. That's Devin Royal hitting a couple. Christoph Tilley, Brandon Knoll rising up over their defenders and hitting threes as well. That's the first thing that I'd like to see Ohio State do in this game. The second thing, we talk about the defense. Give me some hope defensively. I spoke about this in the win over IU Indy. I spoke about this on this very episode. Strictly based on the two teams' pace, okay? Purdue Fort Wayne in game 1 against Grand Canyon and Ohio State in game 1 against IU Indy. You look at Ohio State's defensive rating. You look at Purdue Fort Wayne's offensive rating. If you combine all that math together, the score for Purdue Fort Wayne by the time this game ends, it should be about 86 points. I think it was like 85.8 once you're done with the math. That's way too much. If Ohio State gives up 86 points against Purdue Fort Wayne, you're going to be disappointed. Here's the thing. The pace is likely going to be closer to Purdue Fort Wayne's pace than Ohio State against IU Indy, right? Like, we don't expect Ohio State to play at the pace they did against IU Indy this entire season. So that said, I think you drop that number down maybe closer to 80. I think if you can hold them below 75, you're probably content. If you can hold them below 70, you should probably be thrilled because you're going to play a higher pace than Grand Canyon did against Purdue Fort Wayne, and you're expected to be a better team than Grand Canyon. So that said, I would hope that you can hold them below 75 and you can just feel content going into your next game against Appalachian State. Is that the goal moving forward, by the way, scoring or allowing 75 points per game? No, not necessarily, not really at all. But it may be enough if this offense is truly the best in the nation. If you're giving up 75 points per game, high pace, scoring at a high rate, then maybe that's enough. We'll see. Doesn't feel sustainable. Doesn't feel like you can advance a long way in the NCAA tournament if that's the case, but we will see. All right. Those are the two keys to the game. Make them pay. Give me some hope defensively, right? All right, predictions in this game. So we've got no numbers coming out yet, but here's what the BIP has in this game in store for us right now. It's got Ohio State being favored by 24.5 in this game, and the total at 155 exactly. You want my prediction? I will give it to you now. By the way, I give you these numbers so that you can look ahead of time and know that if Ohio State opens as a 19-point favorite, or if Ohio State opens as a 30-point favorite, you should be maybe placing some money based on those numbers. Same thing with the total, just letting you know that's what the BIP projects in this game. So my prediction in this one, if Ohio State can have its way, and by have its way, I mean if it can get its pace to win again, like it has against IU Indy, although I think IU Indy's pace probably won against Ohio State's pace in that one. If Ohio State can get its pace and its place out to win this game over Purdue Fort Wayne's preference of pace, I think they're scoring 100 plus again. I can tell you, they wanted to get to 122. The record for Ohio State all time in a single season game, or in a single game, is 121 points. That is like 1980s against George Mason. I texted one person. That's it. One person. Before the shot was even empty on Monday night, and they said we wanted 122. Now, it's funny they mentioned that 122. To me, and this is me literally just guessing, this is me wondering, this is just me. This isn't anyone from inside or around the program or anything like that who's saying this. It makes me wonder, if you're saying 122, that makes you think maybe they might know what the record is and they want to hit that record. I don't know. I'm guessing they had enough time by the time that text was sent, and we texted just a couple texts, but there was enough time for you to look up, hey, what's the record for Ohio State? But I wonder, maybe in a team meeting, maybe in a coaches meeting, they sat down and they said, I'm curious, what's the most points an Ohio State team has scored in a game in program history? And they find out it's 121. Maybe it's in the back of their mind. They've got some stretch goal where they want to hit 122. That said, your best shot, not necessarily for 122, but to go over 100 for the rest of this year, it's going to be this game. It's going to be Western Michigan. Those two pretty much head-to-head according to the BIP, and then Mount St. Mary's. So this is a game where 100 points should be absolutely doable for Ohio State. I think it's possible, and I think if their pace, if they get what they want in their pace, that they can do it. They don't need to play at the pace that they did against IU Indy because that was insane. And I think that this defense that they're going to play against Purdue Fort Wayne, it may be worse than IU Indy. And you're not dealing with the press. You're not dealing with some possessions getting out of control, though not a lot of them did against that press against IU Indy. But still, you're going to be able to play at your pace, which is still fast. And I'm not sold that Purdue Fort Wayne has the best defense in the world, in the horizon, in the bottom of the Horizon League. It doesn't matter. It's not a very good defense that they're going to be playing. So that said, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Ohio State ends up scoring 100 points in its second straight game. Now, if they give up 100 points in their second straight game, man, I don't know what to tell you. But I do think offensively, they're going to be in a good spot for this one. All right. Buckeyes will play this game against Purdue Fort Wayne. Again, that's going to take place on Friday for Ohio State. What time is this game? I think it's a 6:30. I could be wrong. I'm going to check real quick. It is 6:30, and it is on Big Ten Network. So Make sure you're tuned in for that one. We won't go live on Friday night because I got to figure out this Wi-Fi, and also it's Friday night. After this game concludes, I will be watching On Patrol live with my wife, and I'm not sure that you'll be tuned in. I'm sure plenty would. It's just I'm not going to go live after every game this season. I've said that I would love to go live for every game. It's just not going to happen. For this one, it won't. So expect a show. I'll probably still record like early Saturday morning or late Friday night and get you an episode on Saturday morning. Expect that. That'll be the next time we're together again. Appreciate you being here today. Again, if you watched all the way through on YouTube, even if you didn't, just pull up YouTube. Search Views from the Shop podcast. Like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed there. 5-star reviews. Follow. Tell a friend about the show. Take a parent's or a guardian's or a sibling or a friend. Take their phone and just subscribe. It's not going to hurt anything. Give a 5-star review on their phone. It's not going to hurt anything. Just do it. Just do it. All right? All right. Buckeyes are 1-0. They're going to look to go 2-0 here against Purdue Fort Wayne. I hope you feel more than prepared for this game for the Buckeyes, and you're going to be ready to go on Friday night. Hope you can make it to the game as well. First weekend game for Ohio State at home this season. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about Ohio State hoops. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go